Welcome to the Power Tools podcast. This is where we discuss energy management topics in Ontario, Canada. So what we want to talk about today, first off, my name is Cam Carver from Workbench Energy, and I'm your host. Joining me today is Elissa Williamson, also from Workbench. Hello, Elissa.
Hi, Cam.
So today's episode, we're going to be talking about managing energy in Ontario like a pro. And so we know that many organizations here in Ontario have dedicated energy managers. So somebody who is spending their time focusing on different topics around energy management for their facilities. However, lots of businesses don't have that kind of dedicated resource. And it's often the file falls to somebody who has other responsibilities. That might be finance, might be maintenance, might be production. And so energy management is something that they're doing almost as a secondary task. And so what we're going to look at today is how, whether you're a dedicated energy manager or whether you're somebody who has responsibility for this file, how you can think about some of the priorities around energy management. And Elissa is the perfect person to be speaking with about this. She is a certified energy manager. She's our in-house energy manager at Workbench, where she's the director of commercial and industrial services for us. So Elissa, great to have you here today. And maybe we can start off with a bit more background on yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Cam. So for myself, I'm born and raised in Northern Ontario, where mining and forestry is, the predominant industry. I'm an environmental engineer by trade, and, I got my start in pulp and paper, actually, in the environmental department. So after that, I transitioned to actually a tribal council where I worked in their technical services department. This is kind of where things sparked for me for energy, where I had an opportunity to work on a renewable energy project. And that's where my interest in energy really started. From there, I had an opportunity to transition to mining, where I worked in the sustainability department, focusing mostly on air quality. From that point, it was really an easy transition to energy management, where for several years I worked as a funded energy manager under the ISO's Industrial Accelerator Program. So tons of great experience and interesting learning experiences there. And I'd say my background's really been, I've had the opportunity to really merge energy and carbon management. Which has brought me to the point of, working at Workbench Energy, which has really given me the opportunity to help create tools and work on different services designed to assist customers in realizing their energy and carbon management goals. So I'm really excited to be here today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
That's wonderful, Elissa. And you're based in Red Lake, so an amazing. As we've endured this pandemic over the course of the last couple of years, working remote's become sort of normal for everybody, and the kind of distance that you are from our headquarters, anyways, is pretty far. But we work obviously very closely with you, and an unexpected perk of this whole pandemic is how easy it's been to work remotely with you and others, right? So I think I guess my first question here is really, when we talk about an energy manager, I often think about it in the context of electricity, but an energy manager does more than just manage electricity. So I guess how would you define the role of an energy manager?
Yeah, and that's a great question. The role of an energy manager is really dynamic. I'd say there's probably three main areas of focus. The first being economic competitiveness, so energy efficiency, keeping costs competitive, that type of stuff. When it comes to the second one, this is I'm finding more and more relevant today as our political situation changes, but energy security, right? So sufficient access to energy and ensuring that, the quantity and quality that you need for your operation is really there. From there, the third kind of key priority for every energy manager is the environment and sustainability side, right? So the environmental social governance goals. Today, even more and more relevant is, the net zero and carbon emissions. So those are kind of the three main areas of focus. And depending on, the current situation, they can be really dynamic in which one is kind of the most important.
Great. And so for folks who are just entering the energy management area, and this is something that they may be taking on for the first time, like where would you suggest they start? Right, day one, a bit about energy, but you're looking to get your hands around this. What do you think the top priority is that a new energy manager should really be thinking about as they tackle the file?
Yeah, well, that's an easy question because it's the same for everyone, no matter what industry you're working in. There's really two things that are the most key. That would be your billing and understanding it. And number two is the operation, when and where you're using the energy. So when it comes to your invoices, there's really, three types of charges that you're looking at. You're considering energy charges. So how much energy are you using over, say, a certain period? Demand charges, which is how much energy you're using right at that point in time. And, customer charges, which can be transmission, regulatory, taxes. So you're looking at the difference between the fixed and the variable, right? So your customer charges, for the most part, can fluctuate depending on your usage. But for the most part, they're fairly fixed. It's the energy and demand charges that you really want to focus on. Once you have an understanding of how you are being charged for your energy, the next thing you really want to do is understand where your energy consumption and your demand is. So the total energy, as I mentioned, and how much energy you're using at any given point in time.
So then if you're you're an energy manager, you were a dedicated energy manager, that's taking up all your time, right? If you had 10% of your time and you were doing this as sort of a one of the many things that you do, where would you spend? Where's the best bang for your buck? Where should folks really be focusing their energy in order to get the best results? And I guess you can define best results depending on whether you're talking about energy or ESG or whatever. But I guess where do you think people should be spending their time?
Yeah, so you really want to look at energy conservation and using less, energy efficiency, using it better and smarter, and energy demand, how you can use it more economically. So out of those three areas of focus, if you only have a small amount of time or you're just starting out, definitely you want to start on economic competitiveness. So based on my personal experience, demand side management programs are really huge and they're easy to get some good, easy wins right off the bat. So in speaking about that, if you're in Ontario, one of the programs that is really great to start with is the Industrial Conservation Initiative, which is, the single largest line item on your bill. It's a demand charge.
So what you're referring to there is the global adjustment, the GA line.
Yeah, really. The GA line, the global adjustment, is a demand charge, and for most of our customers, it can take anywhere between 60 and 70% of your bill. So it's the largest line item on your invoice, and a great place to start with that is assessing whether you're in the proper rate class. So for large industrial consumers, there's an opportunity to be a Class A or Class B customer. And really, what that means is it's how you pay for the global adjustment. So, are you paying based on your consumption or your demand? Um, and really, we get this question so often that we've put a calculator on our website just for that reason. So once you've identified that you're in the proper rate class, the next thing that you should be looking at is your operation, and specifically around the flexibility and the areas that are potentially bottlenecks. So some of the things that I would be considering are load shifting, load shedding, load displacement. Those can create really good opportunities for increasing economic competitiveness, as we mentioned. So, for example, load shifting. Can you do your maintenance at a different time of day, evenings versus, say, mornings and weekends? High energy intensive processes, can you shift those to early morning or overnight periods? And, what in your process is continuous versus, say, a batch process that could be more flexible? High energy intense processes such as, grinding, crushing, arc furnaces, kilns, fans and compressors, they're all great places to start. So those are different areas to take a look for. Also, load shedding. Can you get away with cutting off or shutting down different processes for a short period of time?
Right.
And
So,
of
so,
course,
so the so the
yeah.
distinction being that load shedding is really, can you just stop something for a period of time and it's not going to affect production, right? Load shifting is okay. Can you do this at a different time? Right? Can I do this work at a different time, therefore not use the energy at sort of very high cost or high risk times? And then load displacement, we're talking about basically ride through power, right? So you're using a battery or maybe you're using a generator, and so you're not using grid power during these high cost or high risk times. Is that a
Yeah,
fair description?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think we're seeing a lot of the storage coming into place now where, you can charge it using renewable energy like solar, wind, and then use it during high cost periods, right? So good for the carbon intensity of your process and also good economically.
And so how does one kind of go about, for their first project, finding finding the right project? What should they be looking for? Where should they be looking? What should they be
So
looking for? What's kind of like some low hanging fruit that one might go looking for?
that's a great question. So it's your first project, and really you're starting to just build your credibility, right? So if it's me, my first project, I would build a business case for operational changes that don't impact production and have no upfront cost. So something like identifying a batch process, like a kiln, and maybe you have the opportunity to run it at night versus during the day. Uh, the ICI program really works well with a project like this. And basically, how the program works is that your demand side charges are based on your energy consumption during the top peak hours of the year. So, avoiding energy during those hours can mean substantial cost avoidance in the form of reduced GA charges. So, when you're starting off your first project, if you identify processes that can be slightly altered, the next step is to assign a cost to them. So, what is the cost of that avoidance associated with whatever process you're talking about, say load shifting or load shedding, and present that case, right? Um, some of the ways that's easier to get your project to happen or the suggested changes to the operation would be to find something that doesn't impact production or has minimal cost associated with it.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I think sometimes there's this tension between production and energy management, or even production. Well, finance ultimately usually rules the day, but right, you've got production goals that you want to meet. The idea of stopping production for a period of time isn't always welcome, right? So how then, as an energy manager, you kind of find yourself oftentimes bridging the gap and saying, okay, well, I know we don't want to stop production, but here's the cost impact, and helping make that case and getting buy-in from different parts of the organization is important and a key part of the job. Can you talk a little bit about how you've experienced that and kind of what's been successful for you?
Yeah, and I mean that's really common, right? I think for the most part, management teams understand their costs, right? They understand the cost of production and delays in production. What I think is harder for a management team to quantify is the energy impact of those costs, right? So as an energy manager, I see the job really as being to present that other option.
Mm-hmm.
Um, More times than not, if you present an option that's, economically superior to that of, say, running, right? I know from my experience, there's been a lot of times where, say, we've taken safety days or, done planned maintenance that could be, quickly tailored to um, times where grid costs are high. And those kind of opportunities, depending on your operation, can be, great swayers to, kind of not impacting production, but still being aware of the costs associated with, load shifting or load shedding. Sometimes it costs nothing. So it's really finding
Right.
those. And I think once you've identified what those opportunities can be, and you present the savings, I think that's a great way to build credibility
Mm-hmm.
and really move into your next project.
I like that. I like the idea of presenting options, right? Do this, you get this. Do this, you get this, right? And help present it in ways that are easily understandable. And if you do that well, you're doing your job. You're doing your job well. So I think the other question I kind of have is, so we've identified maybe a process that has some power flexibility. We're going to be ramping that down during times of high risk for GA. Um, there's other value in flexibility. And so maybe you can speak to that, right? It's not just GA. It's not just GA avoidance. There's also some revenue opportunities that can be made, and I think this is some other benefits that directly relate to what your job is as an energy manager.
Yeah, and I mean, you nailed it, right? Like GA and the ICI is not the only opportunity. When we're focusing on economic competitiveness, again, in Ontario, another demand side management program that's really great to be open to and evaluate is demand response. So that is where you essentially earn a revenue for curtailing your power consumption. So depending on your process, you've identified that opportunity where you have flexibility. This can be a really lucrative project, essentially, where you're getting paid to curtail. So those are definitely two of the first demand side management programs that I think can give you that quick win before you kick off and look at other opportunities.
Right. And so, if you have flexible loads or if you're introducing load displacement technologies, Ontario can have one of the lowest cost um, sources of electricity uh, anywhere in North America. If not, if you're not able to find flexibility, you're not willing to, the costs can be considerably higher. Once you've had some success and you've established a really good program, right? You've got everything working, you've identified the flexibility, you've made the business case, you've got the buy-in, you're doing the projects, everything's humming along. What kind of ongoing maintenance do you think, as an energy manager, you need to be keeping up? How do you make sure this is long-term, sustainable, that once savings are locked in, folks aren't forgetting about it. What do you think?
Yeah, well, there's a really common saying in energy management: if you didn't tell anyone, it didn't happen. So, really, maintenance surrounds communication. Communicating your baseline, your status quo, where you started, communicating your targets, communicating your progress, communicating your results. And when it comes to communicating your results, I would say, pay attention to how you're communicating it. Your savings in the form of, so many megawatt hours, while that means a lot to energy managers or certain people in different fields, to, the general audience, it doesn't all the time mean so much. So can you turn those results into, say, a cost avoidance or a cost savings, right? And communicate that again. And then lastly, I would say, most importantly, communicate the wins, right? That's what is going to get people excited. And I would say also, once you're communicating your wins, as we talked about building that credibility, it's really important to also throw in what your next project is, right? So you've got your energy pipeline. What's your next, goal, right? And build off those existing wins. So is it a new project? In the case of someone starting out who's not a dedicated energy manager, maybe your next endeavor is to try to have an energy management program or a dedicated resource. Believe it or not, starting with demand side management opportunities part-time has been the start to many energy management programs, right? Starting there, building some savings, and then developing full-blown energy management programs.
On communicating to your stakeholders within the organization, one of the things we do at Workbench Energy, right, is through our Energy Peak service, is make sure that we're communicating both general knowledge about the ICI program, the energy markets, also notifications of times of risk, and the ability to sort of share information about the performance of your operation, so you can see the impact of curtailment, how you did benchmark, and all those kinds of things, right? And so I think, to your point on communication, having the tools to be able to go and communicate that is really important. We try hard to make sure that we have those tools, that folks that are in the position that you used to be in, and folks that are currently dedicated energy managers or part-time energy managers, or just have the energy management file, are able to get that information, share it, and have confidence in the decisions that they're making.
Yeah, and I mean, Cam, I'm a firm believer in the tools that Workbench has developed. I mean, I use them as an energy manager myself, and if I was to be honest, it was reluctantly at first, right? The reason I kept using them was because it made my life so much easier. So, I really, really think that the tools that we've developed are there to help energy managers. As you mentioned, you can present your situation and communicate it easily. There's lots of support in determining, when you want to shed, and really using those opportunities for the demand side management programs and improving cost effectiveness. So really, I'm a firm believer that we've got some good tools here that will help energy managers. And especially those that are just starting out.
That's great. Well, I think we've covered a lot in a fairly short period of time. I hope that our listeners have gained some knowledge and a few tips. And good luck to everybody working on their energy management projects, and good luck with your participation in the ICI program this upcoming summer. Thanks so much for your time, Elissa. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Cam.